Take a walk through Brussels, and you'll eventually end up outside the Berlaymont. This massive, cross-shaped 1960s complex is the nerve center of the European Commission. It is where thousands of diplomats, officials, and policymakers draft the rules that govern the continent. Walk inside today, though, and you will find some very sudden architectural upgrades. Since the start of the year, construction crews have been quietly retrofitting standard meeting rooms. They are installing signal jammers to block wireless transmissions, and in at least one room, they've built a full electromagnetic Faraday cage to cut off all outside signals. European leaders are building these digital bunkers because their institutions have a massive espionage problem. For decades, the EU operated on a culture of open-door diplomacy and naive conciliation. Security was notoriously lax, and foreign intelligence services noticed. The Chinese state apparatus operates a whole-of-society infiltration playbook. They target Brussels along three distinct vectors: academia, elites, and covert ops. By targeting the very foundations of European democratic society, its free press, its open universities, and its accessible politicians, Beijing has managed to turn the EU's greatest strengths into its most easily exploitable security flaws. The first vector relies on the illusion of independent scholarship. Beijing funds a network of academic entities across Europe, using the credibility of Western universities to launder state narratives. Take what happened recently with the Académie des Sciences d'Outre-mer, a highly respected French learned society. They co-hosted a China-Europe seminar on human rights in Paris. The event drew former European ministers and UN officials, but the programming was entirely controlled by Beijing. Attendees heard zero mention of Uyghur internment camps, Hong Kong dissidents, or mass surveillance. Instead, the seminar exclusively promoted the Chinese Communist Party's specific definition of human rights, which prioritizes state development over individual freedoms. To make sure this message reaches the policymakers who matter, Beijing sets up shop directly adjacent to the lawmakers. Organizations like the Institute for China-Europe Studies and the Brussels Academy for China and European Studies have popped up around EU institutions, hosting a growing number of policy events that consistently repeat Beijing's talking points. It is a sophisticated form of perception laundering. By filtering authoritarian state propaganda through the mouths of seemingly independent Western academics, Beijing gives its geopolitical goals the polished shine of objective, expert validation. That academic foundation paves the way for the second vector, elite capture. Here, the Chinese state apparatus targets high-level European officials, leveraging their historical access to shape current policy decisions. Former European Council President Charles Michel is a prime example. After stepping down from one of the most powerful political seats in Europe, he was recruited as a lecturer at the China-Europe International Business School, a prestigious institution based in Shanghai. He now delivers keynote addresses for them, putting a deeply connected European insider directly onto a Chinese payroll. But the apparatus can also use its leverage punitively. Leila Fernandez Stembridge was the Asia-Pacific advisor to the European Commission's vice president. In late 2023, she traveled to Shanghai and met with a Chinese state strategist who has the direct ear of President Xi Jinping. By the end of that same month, as tensions over electric vehicle tariffs peaked ahead of a major EU-China summit, she was abruptly sidelined from her role. Whether through lucrative speaking gigs or sudden diplomatic freezing, co-opting these elites allows Beijing to bypass traditional diplomatic friction. They can plant their interests directly into the EU's internal echo chamber, spoken by voices the Europeans already trust. And when the soft influence of academia and elite capture fails, the playbook shifts to hard physical espionage and covert intelligence gathering. In 2013, an agent with China's Ministry of State Security named Victor Chen traveled to Belgium. He secured his visa by claiming he was working for an international NGO called the Euro-China Center for Business Cooperation. That cover allowed him to slip into the country and secretly meet with an agent from France's Foreign Intelligence Service. The French agent handed Chen classified documents, eventually leading to a conviction for treason. Today, those physical handoffs have been scaled up into massive digital dragnets. European and Western intelligence services frequently issue warnings about Chinese operatives using LinkedIn to target officials. They set up fake headhunting profiles and offer EU staffers lucrative immediate payments for simple consulting work on vague current affairs topics. Beijing has built an industrialized, highly refined pipeline specifically designed to convert European insiders into active Chinese intelligence assets. For a long time, the EU tolerated this. The diplomatic era under Foreign Policy Chief Joseph Borrell was widely considered conciliatory, allowing these networks to operate with minimal friction. But that era is officially over. European leadership is now pushing back. Under Commission President Ursula von der Leyen and new Foreign Policy Chief Kaja Kallas, Brussels is adopting a highly aggressive security posture. They recognize that the Chinese intelligence apparatus is deeply embedded, and they are tearing up the old rules to root it out. Internally, the Commission brought in Ilkka Salmi, the former head of the Finnish Security Intelligence Service, to manage human resources and security. He is drastically tightening the processes for granting security clearances and forcing managers into rigorous, mandatory counterintelligence training. Across town, the European External Action Service, a frequent target for Chinese spies, has installed a dedicated security manager from Germany's Domestic Intelligence Agency. They are actively hunting for breaches and monitoring delegations with a level of scrutiny Brussels has never seen. Defending European sovereignty now requires an invisible daily war inside the halls of Brussels itself. Officials are finally locking the doors, but the spies are already inside.